Fish on. Okay, my name's Justin Ellis. This is the Topwater podcast, and this is a podcast where I just kind of talk about fishing and talk about, oh crap. Just right in the beginning of it. Forgot to mute it. See, amateur hour. I try to do that. I try to be a little bit more professional, but apparently not. At least this time I remember to move the light. See, the last couple times I've forgot to move the light, and it kind of screws up the lighting and everything. I mean, I still need to get another lamp. Now I'm just rambling, and I'm not even talking about fishing. All right, so the thing is like I've been fishing out at Stocken Lake this not this past weekend, but the weekend before it, and I did just fine. I caught 3 fish, which it wasn't a lot. That's not a lot, especially when you're trying to sit there and fish over schools and stuff like that. Just that, and also, I just wasn't really doing so hot on that weekend, and I was supposed to be doing a podcast with my buddy, and we happened to do it earlier than expected, and just kind of threw everything out of whack. So I ended up not recording last week. I recorded while I was out there, but I didn't record a bunch. So I didn't really get a lot of film, and the film that I did get, it was just pretty much just rinse and repeat of the week before, which I guess is good as far as me being able to establish a pattern. And maybe that's what I should have shown, is the fact that I am establishing a pattern and not really worrying about it being boring. And I was actually worried about it being boring, just I'm catching the same fish, the same type of way in the same spot. Well, everything's going according to plan, so, and I should have done that, hindsight being 2020, and I should have just stayed consistent with it. And I should have just put my, just force myself to do it, and not just, and I think that was just all an excuse. It was all an excuse just to not do it and just to kind of be lazy and to fuck off, and that's what I ended up doing. And, but, I did record the other podcast with my buddy, and, that was fun to do, and it's pretty easy to stay consistent on a podcast whenever, especially when you have someone else doing it with you. Doing this one, it's sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to get in the gear of just sitting down and recording it, and especially when you got some shit going on in your head to where you're like, oh, I should just, I don't know if I should put this out there because I don't know if it's going to be good enough content. Yeah, what it was is just an excuse. It was an excuse to be lazy, and I took it. So back to the regular schedule of not being lazy. I gotta get out of the habit of that. And it's kind of just a pattern myself, and especially on a podcast where I talk about patterns and figuring things out like that. And I can't even pattern my own behavior. I kind of have to apply that skill to multiple areas. And, work ethic is actually one of them that I should definitely strive to make sure I'm consistently, caught up with. But, yeah. But, I'm still staying consistent with going out and going fishing because, that's just kind of part of my passion. I would be doing that anyways. Whether or not I'm taking this with me, the film, you guys, and, filming out there and recording my catches and getting better at recording, or whether or not I'm in here, and getting better at being more fluid in the way I present the material that I'm trying to present, or at least, the content that I'm trying to present, So this past weekend, I actually got onto a bite that I don't normally actually fish. I actually got onto a jerkbait bite, which I'm actually really unskilled with it. And a lot of it had to do with the conditions when I was out there, because of the fact that it was really warm. And we also, well, when I say really warm, I don't mean in the fact of like it was in the 50s. It got to the mid 50s, but it was also kind of sprinkling. I would actually have rather it just rained, like had a nice steady rain consistently, but there was just a little bit of rain, and it probably did affect the water temperatures a little bit, but probably not a lot. At least like when I was there. I ended up leaving probably right around 3 o'clock. So, and it rained a little bit, but not too much. Enough to bring them up shallow, but not like super, super shallow. But they were just kind of in this weird, finicky mood. Like they didn't want, they wanted to chase something. They didn't want to chase anything. That's really what it was. You had to get them to react to something. Like using a swim bait wasn't working. Using a spinnerbait wasn't working, And you really had to force that reaction. And the way I was actually able to do it is by using a jerkbait, which it really kind of helped because the water clarity in the James River at this point is actually fairly clear. So I was actually able to, utilize the jerkbait because I was kind of planning on that because we hadn't gotten a lot of rain and a lot of runoff, so it hadn't had the chance to really muck up the water. And I was actually able to actually catch a few fish. I was actually really pleasantly surprised by that because normally I don't catch anything. Like the only jerkbait fish I've ever caught before today was, I'm pretty sure, it was kind of like one of those happy accidents. I just was just jerking along and by chance caught a small fish. So, before today, I really didn't have too much confidence. And I think it was a lot because I was listening to how you were supposed to work the jerkbait and not really being able to do it myself. I think partially too, it has to do with the fact that this jerkbait doesn't quite suspend properly. And that was kind of a help today since it was a little bit warmer water. Well, we had warmer air temps. It was in the 50s. And previously to that, it had dropped into the low 30s. So it was actually a fairly warm day. It kind of pushed them up just a little bit shallow, but not too shallow. And they weren't, like I said, they were in this weird mood. Like they wouldn't eat a Ned rig. I tried Ned rig. I tried jig. I threw everything. The only thing that worked was the jerkbait. I could be wrong. There probably could be somebody else out there, deep cranking or, throwing a spinner bait or some sort of Carolina rig. I didn't throw a Carolina rig or, a square bill for too long. I just kind of figured, I'm going to go back to what was working. I threw it for a little bit, but I just kind of gave up on it. And I didn't use the Carolina rig at all. I just, it's a little bit too slow paced for my taste. I know it's effective, but it is one of those anchor down and just kind of slow roll it. But the nice thing is also back fishing in the James River is there's a lot less areas for the fish to actually go. So that just means that they're not going to be as spread out. They're going to be a lot more condensed. And since it's a much smaller area, they're a lot easier to find, especially in a kayak, and that's also something that's kind of advantageous about having a kayak is because you can actually access these river systems. Sometimes if you have like a bass boat, you're not quite able to do it. You can get a John boat. John boat's perfect for it. Once you get to the shallow water, as long as you don't have too much gear, and maybe if you have another person, you could actually get up through the rapids. by just kind of portaging the flat. I nearly said flatbed, the flat bottom boat. Yeah, but I think with a kayak, it's a lot easier to do, and especially if you have just like a regular paddle kayak, you can. I was scooting up the river, just fine. Even getting through some of those rapids, I was able to actually paddle through them on some of them. I mean, they're not too like hardcore rapids. One of the things I do want to get for it is some wheels, and bring some wheels along. So that way, if I ever do need a portage around something, I could actually just strap some wheels down to it and just, move it right along. But I think really the big takeaway from these last couple days, and especially with the jerkbait bite that I got onto at the James River, and something I was just really kind of thinking about is I wonder how applicable that would be to the to Stockton. I think it would work fairly well. I think I should really kind of invest time into using the jerkbait, and maybe kind of using the same tactic that I used out at the James River. I think that would be a really good tactic to actually use, is to anchor off of areas and then just work it over with the jerkbait, and just really, really take your time and really just kind of saturate the area with the bait and not try to move too quickly and cover water. Because I think right now I should be focusing on high percentage areas more than trying to cover a vast amount of area. So like hit the spots that I know that there would be fish that could be produced off of that spot. Like there's something there, like it's an access to like some sort of creek, or it's a nice steep drop off to where, just something to where it's just all of them just would, and not all of them, but basically they would congregate into that area and would be able to move up shallow, move deep whenever they really need to, especially now since it's still winter time and they're still in their pre-spawn patterns. Because I mean, it hasn't been warm enough at night. Just there's no way that water is above 45 degrees at this point. Even though we have had some pretty warm weather here in the past few days. I mean, we've been having cold weather too. Like today, it was only I think it was like in the 30s, like 35, somewhere in there. It might have gotten up into the 40s, or 40 degrees, but it probably wasn't. So this was the tactic that I was using, and this is also kind of something to kind of mention. And to be honest about this, I'm a very amateur for filmographer, or whatever you want to. I'm an amateur content creator. I think that's probably a better word to actually put onto this. So I didn't quite get all the fish catches on film, which is kind of stupid on my behalf. I wasn't really thinking about it. And also, most of the catches that I got were usually off the first cast. So a lot of the times I would pull up and catch a fish and be like, crap, I forgot to get that on film. And then I'd sit there and fish and fish and fish. And then I would never catch one again. And then I would move off to the next one, shut the camera down, move off to the next spot, sit there, throw one out just to kind of test whether or not there's fish in the area, and catch a fish. And then I'd fish and fish and fish. And that happened a couple times until I started pulling up on this one spot, and I just made sure I had the camera on. But this is this was the area that I was fishing, the first spot I actually got to. And what had happened is I had tossed out, and I was working the jerkbait back, and I saw a bass come up and swipe at it. And when it came up and swiped at it, I was like, oh, there's bass there, and they're willing to feed on it. So I threw back out there, and I started jerking it back. I got pretty close to the bank, and it took a while. And I was really just being methodical with the bait. And I think methodical is the right word, because I knew I couldn't go fast. I knew I couldn't be like pop, pop, pause, and just like really work the bait hard. I knew the water was cold. I knew they were going to be lethargic. And I kind of just played around with the cadence for a little bit. But I noticed like whenever that one fish swiped at it, it was off of a long pause. And I think I left it sitting there for like 5-6 seconds. So that one, when I tossed it back out there, I just let it sit there for probably about, I usually count anywhere from 3 to 5, and I'll just change it up. I'll do 5, then 3, then 5. I won't keep it the same cadence the entire time. Even though, like, if they're wanting a little bit slower bite, I'll do like 5 seconds, like a 5-second break, 5-second break, and then do like a 3-second or maybe a 4-second, and then do like a 7. I just try to change up the cadence as much as possible. So that way it kind of dials it in a little bit more. So if I was able to get a bite off of a 10-second break rather than a 5-second break, well, then I would want to wait at, 10 seconds. But unfortunately, I didn't. Like, what I should do is I should either get some like lead tape, well, some of the lead like little sticker stuff, but I hear sometimes that stuff's pretty bad. But what I've also heard is you can actually take like a split ring and put it right there onto the bottom. And this is actually the jerkbait that I was using on Sunday when I went out and I was actually catching all those bass. So, and they weren't half bad, I mean, they weren't big, but they weren't like the smallest ones in the world. They were better than what I was catching currently. So it was an upgrade. But so what I was doing, and you can see it here, what I would do is I would post up off of like some sort of tree or some sort of brush pile, and I'd be fairly far away from it. I mean, this was pretty clear water. I had probably about, 6-7 foot of visibility, somewhere around there. And so, I mean, that's fairly clear water as far as like when it comes down to like, Missouri waterways. Sometimes they can be a little bit, testy. They can be a little bit dirty. So, but that's what I was doing. I was doing that right there. And something else I want to show you is there's going to be a lot, and this is one thing that you have to be prepared for. And I don't know if a lot of people show this, but I am going to show this because this is what this podcast is all about. Is it is 100% about showing the mistakes of doing something and seeing it and being like, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is what you should kind of, do in order to correct this. And a lot of this has to do with current. Now, the reason why this is kind of an important moment is to understand current. And you might think, Justin, I understand current. It flows. It flows one way. Yes. But also understand that right now, that this current isn't really moving that quickly. But it's moving fast enough to where it's going to push my bait. So I cast out, and I get it pretty darn close to that tree. And I was thinking, well, it's going to be right next to that tree, right next to that cover. It should be just fine. I wasn't thinking about the current. I wasn't thinking about the current pushing it into the tree on the pauses. So it's just sitting there. I'm jerking it along. And as I'm jerking it along, it's getting closer and closer into the tree. And I keep jerking it, letting it pause, And then and then I jerk it and I feel it, become heavy. And I set the hook, and sure enough, it's in the tree. It is 100% into that tree. But luckily for me, I could actually see it, and I could actually retrieve my bait. Now, I tried getting in there and actually getting to it, but unfortunately, I ended up having to just, in order to actually get my bait out, I had to snap the line in order to, because, it was all sorts of just wrapped in there. So in order to, save my bait and save, dumping more line into the water, because honestly, as fishermen, what we need to do is not put as much line in the water as possible. You want to keep that out of the lake, because it's a pain in the ass when you fucking catch somebody else's line and it's stuck down there, and it's somebody else's line. And it's oh, it's such a pain. But I don't want to complain too much about that. But the jerkbait was the way to go on that night. It was what I needed to be doing, because I think that, coupled with that sort of drop down vertical style of fishing, I think that is a good 1-2 punch for winter time on Stocken Lake. It's just, I just need to get a little bit more comfortable with actually using the jerkbait. And what I need to do is just to anchor off points and be a little bit more comfortable just to sit in one spot and to really soak up one spot. But even then, on Stocken Lake, I would still get into the crappie and all that sort of fun stuff. And it's just, and I was getting into some pretty decent crappie too. I caught a 12-inch, little 12-inch crappie. It was nice. He was good. And check it out. It's just the same tactic that as I've been, kind of just honing in on, is that vertical style fishing, which, again, just like the jerkbait, it ends up being a bait that suspends at a certain depth, and it'll just stay, just level, and then all of a sudden it'll pop and cause a reaction bite. And that's what it's doing, is it's given the opportunity to the fish in order to be able to look at it and hone in on it, and whenever it moves, it'll lash out at it. And that, oops, bumping mics. And this technique is actually kind of nice because it allows the bait to sit right in front of them for longer than just 10 seconds, and longer than, I just kind of feel like it's a good way to be able to position yourself where you need to be and then create the action. So you're able to get it directly on top of their heads. As long as your equipment's good enough and you know what you're looking at, and able to see everything properly, then it's really kind of more like playing a video game, because then you're not really you're paying more attention to the screen, and really less about your pole, and you're kind of looking where things are. And whenever you pop it, that's when you're paying attention to the pole. So you're kind of doing this back and forth thing. So once you get to the spot to where you want to start popping it, that's when you start really paying attention to the pole and a little bit less to the screen. But that's what I was doing. I just noticed that I was over the school, and so I was over the school, and I can just kind of see my bait just kind of hanging off of there. And I notice that I get over the school and I just pop it, and I just see the little tap whenever I popped it. Yeah, see, check it out. Right here. See, I'm moving myself into position, and just little pop. Just let it sit there. Just little pops. Let it sit there for about 5-10 seconds. Little pop. Then kind of maneuver myself somewhere else. But it's always staying at the same depth. So it's never being retrieved or anything like that. So there it goes. So I popped it, and there was a little boop, and that's it. That's all it is. It was a nice little crappie. At first I thought it hooked into a well, the way he hit, I thought it might have been something a little bit bigger than a crappie. I thought it might have been like a white bass or something. But it turned out to be a fairly decent sized crappie. I mean, not like a huge crappie, but, okay. And I caught a little itty bitty bass too. I could show it to you. I'm going to show you the little itty bitty bass. He's a cute little guy. All right, so, and it's just the same technique over again. So, I mean, this technique works. It works, but it's not exciting. This is not exciting fishing. It's really boring, But that's something to really understand about fishing. Sometimes it's boring, You're not always going to have just, this really exciting time to where it's just like, poles are getting bent and it's just drags just peeling. Sometimes it's just like that. Just a little pup. And then you reel in just an itty bitty bass. Small guy. Small fry. But I also think that the size of the bass is probably indicative of where I'm at. Since I'm pretty far up into the creek, I think that right there, these are all, it seems like everything that I'm catching there, as far as like bass-wise, is really juvenile bass. So I'm finding a lot of probably bass that were born in the spring. That's what I think these bass are, is from this year's spawn. And that's probably what they are. So probably the majority of the bass are either off the points that are probably on the other side, like further down the lake, to where it actually starts to become more of like a main lake. They're probably down there, hunkered off points and stuff like that, or like humps and whatever it is, because it gets deeper the further it goes. It goes from, like, I think where I'm at, like the deepest it gets is probably about like 20, 25. I think like 25 is probably the deepest it gets. And then if you go like 3-4 miles down, then it drops down to like 30, 40 feet deep. So I think if I went downstream and got to that like 30, 40 foot mark, I think I'd start actually encountering like more quality bass. And actually I'd probably end up encountering, actual legitimate sized fish, like probably like 3-4 pounders. I'm not gonna throw out any sort of big number on this lake, because I have never caught anything big on this lake. I have caught, some decent ones out at Springfield Lake. I can say that because I've done it. And yeah, so that's, I think with the jerkbait, I really do think I could actually do some damage. I can't wait. I really can't wait for this this upcoming. I mean, I went out and I bought. I keep buying tackle. I just keep buying tackle. It's like an addiction or something. There's probably something majorly wrong with me, because I keep. I mean, why not? Why not buy more tackle? Why not? Who cares? But yeah, so like this weekend it's looking like it's gonna be pretty good. Like it's gonna be some warm weather again. Like we're talking 50 degrees on Saturday and 57 on Sunday, so warm weather. But the nighttime temps are just still pretty low, because like tomorrow night 34, Wednesday 20, Thursday 13, Friday 28, Saturday, 36, Sunday, 42. And 42 is the warmest, and then it gets colder again. So the water's not going to warm up right now. It's just not, You can't expect it to. And, they're still not predicting anything warmer than 40 degrees after that. So it's wintertime. That's what it still is. And it's not quite spring. I can't wait for the spring, and I'm getting geared up for the spring, but it's not quite spring. So I think right now I'm just going to worry about, doing what I can in order to keep catching fish. Next weekend, I probably won't go out to Stocken Lake. I'll probably end up going back out to Springfield Lake 2 days in a row, especially since I'm recording the podcast this upcoming week. So the schedule issue there will kind of help out with me going out to Springfield Lake, just because then I'm still in town, and it just adds convenience to be able to get that, or to get that stuff done. But the jerkbait bite is probably going to still be on. So I'm going to modify that jerkbait right there and probably add a split ring to it, because I think with one split ring on the front, it would suspend. I really do think one split ring on the front, it would. I don't think it's going to take much, because it's a pretty slow rise to it. And I think if it just suspended correctly, I'd be able to get more bites. Just 100%, I think that's what it is. I need to be able to wait 5 seconds and just leave it at the depth that it's at and not have it rise up. I think I would have gotten a lot more bites if it would have just stayed at the depth that I was at. So, but I think with these warm temperatures that are coming up, with the 50s and, being into being 50 degrees and being almost 60, I think it said 57 degrees. I think with having those warm temperatures, I do think they're going to be feeding on the, I do think they're going to be feeding up. I think they're going to be, I think they're going to be looking up and looking to feed on things above them. I think that's what's going to be happening. Also, I think, let's get back to it. Let's see. Yeah, so it's going to be partially cloudy on Saturday, and it's also going to be cloudy with chance of rain on Sunday. I mean, I hope it rains. I've been having some damn good luck when it rains. So, I'm just saying you guys should gear up with some rain gear and get out there and, try to do some damage. See 15 mile per hour winds on Saturday, what it's predicting. That's cool, because I noticed, I kind of needed that windage. When the wind was too much, when it was, really blowing too hard, that jerkbait bite kind of died off a little bit. But when it was completely calm and still, that also kind of killed it. So I kind of needed this in-between wind gusts. So when I was really getting my bites is really kind of in between the spikes in the lows of the wind. Whenever it was just kind of moderate. And let's see, Sunday. Let's see how windy it's going to be on Sunday. Only 9 miles an hour. Ooh, delicious. I like that. I like a little bit less wind, but I need a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, the only thing is I really hope it rains. With it being 57 degrees, if it just really had a good downpour, a really good downpour, I would be 100% down with that. I'd love to be on the water during that. It seems like that's, and I think that's just indicative of the season that we're in, is that whenever we get these warm rains, it's actually going to drive the fish up and shallow, and that's really where my wheelhouse is. I'm definitely a shallow water fisherman. 100% through and through. I am a shallow water fisherman. And I think that's the reason why I've been struggling so much here lately. And I think another thing is the fact that whenever I go out to Stocken Lake, I tend to fight my kayak more than I'm fishing. I tend to have to like just constantly sit there and paddle in order to keep position, in order to keep fishing what I'm doing. So I think utilizing the anchor is going to be a really big deal the next time I actually get back out to Stockton, which, like I said, probably won't be this weekend. It'll probably be the next weekend. So, but I think the plan, the plan is just going to be based off the weather. The plan is just going to be based off the weather, just because, at a certain point, if it's too severe of weather, I won't actually be able to get out there. And with it being springtime, severe weather happens. And being in Missouri, that means thunderstorms and tornadoes and all that fun stuff. So I just kind of have to, play it by ear and figure out what's going on. And I also want to kind of just put this out there. I got a little bit of time off coming because I had to take a vacation. But I got a little bit of time off. I'm going to try to do some fishing. I'm going to try to hit it hard at this. Well, probably not like hit it hard, but, at least go often enough. I do want to have at least a day or two just kind of not really doing anything, because I think that's important to do nothing at sometimes. Sometimes it's important to do that, to take a break and just play some video games, and, that's it. Just to spend a good 8-hour day playing some Assassin's Creed. Probably not. I may do it Friday of next week, because this week is my last full week. Then next week I have a 4-day week, and then I get Friday off, and then I'm off for the next week. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to be doing I'm going to be trying to do some, springtime pattern fishing. Hopefully by then they'll be starting to get into that pre-spawn attitude, or that pre-spawn mood. Oh, and something else to mention, it was a full moon. So that's something. There's a lot of people who base a lot of things on the moon, and I don't necessarily base everything on the moon, even though I do think it does have an effect. I just think that the fish biting have more of an effect. I mean, I think the moon phases and that sort of thing has more of an effect on your, like, tidal fisheries. I mean, that, of course, it has an effect on them. But as far as, like, the fisheries that I'm in right now, I don't think it has as big of an impact, even though I do think it is an impact. But another thing is, what was good about going out there now is I was able to do a little bit of exploring, and I found something that I cannot wait until I actually get to go there and check it out, because this is it right here. And it doesn't look like much. That's because it is. It's very shallow water, but I did find some bass in there. Which was weird, because this is wintertime and that water's freezing cold, and it's not really that deep in there. But I did find a couple of small bass in there, and I actually saw like a little 1-pounder, going around in there. But what's cool is I was finding beds just all around. And some of them were probably bluegill beds. They look pretty small. But I did find like a bass bed or two that was like a fairly decent size. So, but I was finding these little pockets and these little waterways all on Sunday. And there was a couple of them that I was looking at to where it's like, that's going to be one of, like, there was one to where I do want to fish it, but the only way to fish it is by parking your kayak and getting out, because it's kind of dammed up. I mean, I do think that I'd be able to get my kayak back in there to fish. The only thing is if I did get back in there in order to fish, I would have to, I wouldn't be able to take too much gear. I would specifically have to go back in there for that one thing. And if I did that, it would just be a couple of rods, a couple of baits, probably, something that I can just fit into a small pack, nothing heavy, and just go, and then go back into those creeks. But they're not really creeks because it's all, I don't know why I call it a creek. It kind of seems like a creek because it's really shallow, but it's just all part of the same water system. It's just a little break off to where that's where some water runs, and if it's low enough, it's not going to run through there, but normally there is some sort of water flow through there. It's just not a lot. And during springtime, it gets more, but I think that's where they move up to spawn. Now, what's important about that is right about that point, I stopped catching fish. So from that point, further upstream, I wasn't actually catching any sort of fish, and I wasn't getting any sort of bites. I wasn't seeing any fish. It was just kind of nothing. And, I was using the jerkbait, I was using other baits, and it wasn't working. So, and then once I went back down past that point that I found, I was actually getting back into the fish. And so what I think right now is they're really just kind of congregated into these places that are nearing off some like really hardcore structure, like bridges and stuff like that, and points, and just sitting there waiting for the spawn to happen, And I also don't think I went up far enough up into the stream in order to actually start, hitting like the pockets and being able to fish the pockets. If I had taken a little bit more time and kept pressing forward, but also it's kind of one of those things to where I didn't want to get, stuck out there on the way back without any lights, because I didn't have my headlamp, I didn't have my regular tripod light. I have a little light it's a little tripod. It's meant for like changing tires and stuff like that. So that way, if you don't have a hand to like freely hold onto a light, it can sit there and shine on it and be able to check it out. And originally I got it for Christmas from my dad for catfishing. So that way is when we're out catfishing, you can have a light just sitting there onto your stuff. It's actually a really nifty little item to have. But I can't wait for the spring. I can't wait. I am geared up. I am ready to go. I want to catch. I've caught one bedfish. I caught one bedfish, and it was on accident. I didn't know it was a bed. Well, I knew it was a bedfish whenever I was trying to catch it. I knew it was a bedfish whenever I was trying to catch it, because what it was is there was a corner, like there was this boulder that was sitting out, like kind of coming out of the bank, because I was bank fishing, and it kind of created this little like corner. And when I say a little corner, I mean the corner was not bigger than that. So it's like you got about a foot of space right there. But there was a bass spawning there, and I didn't know it. I just kind of figured I'm just going to throw up into this little crook and see if there's anything just sitting there. And sure enough, it went down, and I felt the bump up, and then I tried to set the hook, and it just didn't work. And did it again, tried to set the hook, didn't work. And what I did is I just ended up downsizing the speed worm that I had, because it was a full speed worm, and then I just pretty much lopped it off in half, and then threw that onto the little mushroom head that I had, and I threw that in there. I ended up catching him. It was a little buck bass, just about 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, something like that. He wasn't that big. He actually probably just 1.5 pounds, something like that. But that was probably the only bedfish that I actually legitimately. Well, that was the only bedfish that I legitimately actually caught, because of the fact that I had to throw in there multiple times in order to get it. And it was during the spawn, so I just assume it's a bedfish. But I haven't actually gone out and actively looked for bedfish, which I'm just kind of excited to do. I really enjoy sight fishing. It's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Now I just need to get back into those creeks and get back into those areas and look for bedfish. It'd be fun. Look for old beds, and I was finding old beds. I found quite a few of them, and I know that's one spot that's kind of in a way just kind of blown up, but also at the same time, that's just one spot. I found multiple spots, so even though you might think, oh well, that people are going to find out about that. People are going to find out about it. It's not that far away from it's just right off the main river. It's just right there. So if I'm the only person fishing it, then I'll be surprised. Now, if I'm the first person fishing it, now that's what you got to do. You have to be the first person to go there and bedfish. So hopefully I'll be the first person. I'll have to keep my eye on. So this weekend I'll probably be going back out to. I'm probably going to be fishing the James River just a couple of times, at least a little bit into the spawn, just because I want to find them on beds there, and I think I'd have a better chance of finding them on beds there than I would finding them on beds at Stocken Lake. That, and also I kind of feel like going out to Stocken Lake and bed fishing, I would want to have something better than just the anchor that I have. And maybe that's something I do need to think about, is buying one of those stakes. Buying one of those like Yak Attack stakes that I can put into my Anchor Wizard. That would be the bomb. I would actually really like to have one of those, but they're like $50 or something like that for just a pole. So expensive for a pole. I don't know, but I guess if if it works, it works. Can't beat it. It's the best one out. It's the only one out there, actually. Well, it's not the only one out there. There's probably other ones out there, but it's the one I found. And it may be more than $50. It might be like 60 or 70. Man, I don't know how much those things are. I should probably figure that out. Oh, you know what? I think we've stopped recording. Card full. Oh, look at that. You guys are going to have a treat today. You're going to get a little bit of a gap. I forgot to. Boom. You guys are going to get to hear me delete stuff today. Amateur hour. That's what this is. So, I would like to apologize for this. One of these days, I will be able to consider myself not that bad at podcasting. One of these days, I'll be mediocre instead of just really terrible. No, don't delete that one. That's the one I need. I am so stoked that I could just screw this on up. Yep. All right. Welcome back to video for the last 10 minutes of the podcast. Yeah. So, I also forgot to delete things. So, now remember, I moved the lamp forgot to delete the other videos off the card, so it got full. But that shit happens, you know? You gotta roll with it. You can't be afraid to show your failures. That's what I mean. I kind of think that's part of this. You know, part of this is to figure out where the failures are and figure out the fail points and the parts to where you go, yeah, I probably should have done that a little differently. And this is one of those parts. I probably should have remembered to clear out the card. And so now there's going to be a little bit of a gap. So you guys are going to get a picture of me holding up some sort of fish. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll actually, during that point, I'm going to put a little treat in there for you. So the people that, oh, well, you know, actually, see, now here's the funny part is the people, because when you're listening to this, you'll actually see what I'm talking about now and then go, well, dude, you're already fucking, you already showed us that. You don't need to talk about it. We already saw it. So I'm not going to say anything. It's a surprise. But yeah, you know, I can't wait for the spawn. I can't wait. I bought a whole bunch of square bills. Well, not a whole bunch. I bought like 3, 4, maybe 5. I think about 5. No, 4. I don't know. I'll have to check. But I know I got some KVDs, I got a 6 cents. I got a couple. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. You know, see if the jerk bite doesn't pick back up. That'd be also pretty cool. I'd be down with that. Man. But I gotta say, really say, I feel really bad whenever I'm catching bass by a jerkbait. Because normally I'm used to fishing like some sort of like swim bait or like a jig or something like that doesn't have like treble hooks all over it, you know? So what ends up happening is like when those fish come up with like that swim bait or something like that, they only have like one hook in them. So it's like, oh, pull the hook out. Look, I got the fish. Whenever they come up with that jerkbait, like I caught one to where it was just, you can tell he swiped at it and it was just all his dome. Like it was just all, like both hooks were in his head and the last one was like somewhere in the body. Like, it's like, gosh, man, I feel bad for you. You know? Oh, man, it's just brutal. You know? Just absolutely brutal. And then you got other fish that are like swimming up trying to take it away. It's like, can you not tell that this other fish has just a face full of hooks and you're just like, give me that too. That looks fun as fuck. I want to eat that. It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating what like these bass will actually like go after. And maybe that's the crazy thing is they'll eat such a variety that it just kind of makes it to where, oh, what are they biting on today? You know, and then sometimes it's a jerkbait, and sometimes it's a swim bait, and sometimes it's something else, and sometimes it's a square bill, you know? And it's just, and especially like you'll get onto like Instagram and you'll just go through. Somebody's catching on a swim bait, somebody's catching on a spinner bait, somebody's catching on a square bill, somebody's catching on a deep diver. And then it's like, you know, you almost get this like overwhelming sort of feel when it comes down to all the information that's coming at you. It's like, oh, what should I, you know, fish? And I think it really just comes down to your confidence and what you're trying to fish with. You know, if you know if you don't know the pattern that's going on, then you know, you're gonna have some experimentation. Hopefully you'll figure it out by the end of the day, but you know, sometimes you don't. You know, sometimes you just go out there and swing away, and it just never happens. But and other times you just go out there and you just toss the first thing, and well, bye. You just end up catching them, and then you're like, oh, well, there we go. They're on a square bill bite. they're on a jerkbait bite. They're on a swim bait bite. They're on a jig bite. And then But other times you just go out there and chuck them and you don't seems like sometimes you go out there and it seems like you can do everything wrong and without even trying. Nothing you're going to do is right. And, sometimes it's just going to be like that. I think I really screwed up my my cadence. Well, not really cadence, but I screwed up my roll whenever I noticed the film went dead. I wonder how long it died. That's going to be the interesting part, is to figure out where the film died, where the camera got full and me starting it back up. That's going to be the fun part. That's going to be fun. Figure that out. That's going to be all for you guys. You're welcome. You're welcome for my screw-ups. So, if you're listening to this, or watching it, just remember, delete your SD card. All of it. Whether you saved it to the computer or not, delete it now. Delete it all. Man. But that's what this podcast is about. It's about having fun. It's about fishing and having fun and, figuring things out. That's what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out one step at a time. I'm not going to be an expert at this overnight. That's just a fact. It's just going to take me some time. Kind of bear with me. Bear with me. And if you like this shit, yeah, I'm definitely going to keep putting them out there. But I'm just going to keep hammering away on these things. It's going to be fun. So, it's been fun. I've been enjoying doing this podcast. And I'm just going to continue doing them every week. And I'm going to try to keep doing I thought about just backing off on doing it every week and doing it every other week. So that way is that this podcast and the other podcast kind of alternate back and forth. I'm still doing a podcast every single week. And I'm still putting something out there every single week. But this podcast is probably going to just at least slow down for right now until I get a better computer, or at least until I get a better processor. Because once I get a better processor and a little bit more memory into it, and maybe a better graphics card, I don't know what all I need. I need to figure that out. But right now, I'm using this website in order to edit these videos and get everything all done up. But it's one of those things where it takes a day in order to upload everything, and then it takes, and then a day to edit, and then to download and get them up onto YouTube. So it ends up being this 2-3 day process just to do one video. I mean, I could probably hammer it out all in one day if I, had the time to do it, but I just really don't. And I mean, I think it would take even more than just one day to do it. I think it would take a full day just to get it uploaded and get it edited and get it and possibly downloaded and then re-upload it. So there's all this download, upload. That's what it ends up being. And I wish I just had the software on my computer in order to be able to handle the editing process. Because once I get a better computer, the editing process will actually really cut down the length of time that it takes for me to actually get these videos up there. I would actually be able to get these videos on YouTube probably the same day, because all I'd have to do is just import the stuff, put it together, export it, and then upload. And it would take me no time at all compared to what it is now. I mean, completely cut out the whole day's worth of uploading. Which the thing is, I just do it when I'm at work, but I mean, still, by the time I come back from work, usually there's still a couple things to upload, and by the time I get done with it, it's just, I just need to upgrade my computer. And once I upgrade it, I'll probably go back to doing this once a week again, just because then, like I said, the process will be more streamlined, everything will be better. But for right now, it is amateur hour. That's what it is. And, that's okay. It's okay to be amateur. You got to start somewhere. Got to be, and you know what? If I set the bar low enough, then moving up be much easier. See? And you just slowly move the bar up over a long period of time, and then, it looks like you're making real progress. And it's just like, you know what? I knew I was an A student. I just wanted to, go through being a C student to a B student, all the way up to an A student. That's what it is. So, here's to you guys. Thanks for listening. I've been having fun with this, and I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun doing this stuff. And, like this. If you want to hit that fucking like button, that'd be awesome. Throw some comments down there. Maybe, talk about, the times that you didn't edit, you didn't delete your SD card, do that. Be like, oh yeah, I caught the biggest bass in my life and SD card was full. One of those stories. Throw that down there in the comment section, or throw anything down there in the comment section. You can say what you want. It's comments. It's sheer comments, not mine. But yeah, share this with your friends. Especially, hey, if you barely even know them, that's the perfect people to share stuff with, because you can be like, well, I don't have to have a great opinion of this, and I can just try it out on you. So even if you haven't watched the full thing, go ahead and share it with your friends, and then they can watch the full thing for you, and they can tell you whether they liked it or not. And by the end of it, they could be like, yeah, he's a fucking amateur. His video shuts down. He doesn't film everything all right. He talks about stuff after he's already shown it to us. What an ass. But yeah, I'm having fun. It's been fun. I hope you guys are having a blast doing this, because I am too. And I hope you guys are actually getting out there and taking advantage of the time, because especially now, leading into the spawn, or some of you guys are already into the spawn, and some of you guys haven't even started. But just get out there and get after it. It's okay to have boring days, and it's okay to have crappy days, and it's okay not to catch fish. I think it's more important just to go out there and enjoy it than to worry about actually catching fish. And that's what it's supposed to be about. And that's kind of what I want to do, is just to enjoy going out there and fishing, talking about fishing, talking about stories and shit. So I hope you guys have had fun. I've been having fun. I know I said that 8 billion times. So you guys have a wonderful evening.